Hello, everyone. My name's Ellie. I must give you a trigger warning because my story does have some abuse. I won't go into a hell of a lot of detail, but I will mention some instances to show you what my monster mother-in-law put me through. I still regret the day I married my now ex-husband, Jake. I thought he was a good man. I thought that he came from a family that was respected. His mother, Chrissy, worked at a charitable foundation doing good for people. His father, Xavier, was a staunch businessman who took care of his family and made sure they were left wanting for nothing. Overall, they were a great family, and anyone would be happy to be a member of their family. Initially, I was happy to be a part of their family, too. It was after my marriage to Jake that everything changed. My mother-in-law, Chrissy, became abusive towards me. You see, Chrissy slowly started to do stuff to hurt me and emotionally control me. It started off with her stealing my glasses, phone, and purse, and hiding them so that I couldn't find them. Then she would laugh while I anxiously tried to find them. She would intensively ask me to carry extremely hot pots that would burn me. One time, she added shrimp juice to her chicken casserole so that I would develop an allergic reaction and miss my party. She made me cook for hours and then dumped everything on the floor. She continued to do stuff like this and then claimed that it was all accidental or she wasn't responsible for it. Hell, she even intentionally tripped me when I was at a family dinner, so I would embarrass myself and people would laugh at me. After months of receiving this treatment, I confronted Chrissy and asked my husband for help. I said, "You need to tell me what the hell your problem is, Chrissy. I'm tired of your behavior. I know you have been intentionally trying to hurt and embarrass me." "What the hell are you talking about, Ellie? How could you casually accuse me of something like that? God, are you jealous of me or something?" "Why the hell would I be jealous of someone like you, Chrissy? You are a freaking psycho. You literally don't have any reason to do what you are doing. You just enjoy hurting me." "God, Ellie, you need to stop being so dramatic. Don't cause an unnecessary scene. My mother is an esteemed lady who works at a charitable foundation. She is the last person to hurt you." I was alarmed by my husband's nonchalant reaction to me being abused. Sure, Chrissy did hide her actions and pretended to be innocent, but Jake knew about the food tampering and intentionally displacing my stuff. I was surprised that he was blaming me for accusing his mother. I was horrified to hear what he said. I said, "Jake, you need to do something about your mom. What she has been doing to me is borderline abusive. You saw how she intentionally makes food with stuff I'm allergic to. She knows I will suffer if I eat that. She doesn't even inform me about it." "You are being ridiculous, Ellie. Mom would never do something like that. It's all in your head. Mom has been telling me that you are losing your mind by being jealous of her. I can see what's happening." "What the hell, Jake? You know your mother has been tampering with my food and adding allergens to it. You know much more than that as well. Still, you want to take her side." It confused me as to why Jake was being such a doormat and completely disregarded my words about his mother. He was never like that. He loved me and cared about me, but now it felt like he didn't care about me at all. I felt like I was struck with a thunderbolt. I looked at him in shock and was trying to understand why he was behaving in such a way. That was when his mom said, "Jake, your wife is crossing all limits. If she continues this behavior, we may have to kick her out. I always knew she was unworthy of our family, and now she is proving it. If you want to support your wife, you can leave as well. That will help us decide better what to do with your inheritance." "Mom, I know Ellie is being crazy right now. I don't support her at all." "I swear she will behave herself. I will make sure of it. If she doesn't, you can kick her out. I won't mind. I always knew you were the reasonable one, Jake. Thank God you can see past this crazy woman. I can't believe what a horrible woman she is, blaming me for her clumsiness and accusing me of being abusive. Leave her be, Mom. Don't worry. I'm on your side. She'll come to her senses once I talk to her properly. I think I knew why Jake was going against me despite everything. You see, me and Jake were living with his parents because that's what they wanted. Jake worked in Xavier's company and was completely dependent on his dad for his income. He did give some assets as land and office complexes, but he didn't own a house. He wanted his father's assets and didn't want to piss off his mom for the same reason. Yes, my husband was a greedy and selfish prick. Xavier often stayed away for business, so he had no idea what was going on in his house. Hell, even I didn't know that my own husband would refuse to protect me. When we were alone, he said, "What the hell is wrong with you, Ellie? Are you trying to get us kicked out or something?" "Seriously, Jake, that's what you have to say after I told you about your mom's abuse? What kind of a husband are you?" "The kind that knows how to secure his future. You are insane, Ellie. You can't just expect me to accuse my mom of such things. Plus, you pull me into your problems. If she gets mad at me, do you think she will let Dad give me all of my inheritance? Is your inheritance more important than your wife, Jake? We don't need anything. Let's leave and buy our own house. We can afford it. It will be smaller than this place, but it will be ours. No one can abuse me there." "Oh, please, Ellie. We cannot even dream of ever buying a house like this. I'm not going anywhere. You'll put up with my mom and stop complaining. If you don't, I'm sure my mom will kick you out. Don't come crying to me then because I won't help you." And that was the point when I knew that my marriage was over. Jake betrayed me in the worst way possible. He wasn't the man I thought he was. I felt helpless and didn't know what to do. Chrissy seemed to ramp up her abusive tactics after getting confirmation that Jake wouldn't protest. I felt like I was lost. I wanted to run away and just leave everything behind, but I didn't do that. I wasn't going to let Chrissy get away with her abuse. I came up with a plan. I was going to expose her. I was going to make sure people knew exactly what an evil woman Chrissy is. My plan was simple. I accessed the security cameras around the house and pulled all the recordings secretly. I found plenty of evidence of Chrissy's abuse against me. I made a compiled video of it and kept it aside for a very special day. Chrissy's birthday was coming up, and we had a few guests invited for a small celebration. Xavier would be present as well. That would be my D-Day. The countdown had begun. I was out to destroy Chrissy. On the day of Chrissy's birthday, she was her usual jolly self. She acted like the sophisticated, caring woman that she is known to be. Surprisingly, she was even behaving well with me, probably because there were people around. I didn't say anything but just went along with it. After the birthday cake was cut, I stood up and made an announcement. I said, "Thank you, everyone, for coming to celebrate my dear mother-in-law, Chrissy. I'm sure you already know what a sweet and caring woman our birthday girl is. Now, I won't go into a lot of detail about her great deeds, since many of you already know them. But since today is Chrissy's birthday, I thought I should show you exactly how much of a good person my dear mother-in-law is. As you can see, I have set up a screen to display the little video I made about my great mother-in-law. Enough with words. Now I'll let you all see this dedicated video and make your wishes for our dear birthday girl." I played the video and let it do its job. I actually came prepared. Even if the worst were to happen, some of my friends were one call away, waiting for me to call them if something went wrong. After suffering for years at the hands of my monster mother-in-law, I was done being a doormat. I was standing up against her and exposing her two-faced self to everyone. I didn't care anymore. Not for my mother-in-law, not for my husband. I was freaking done. The people saw the video I had painstakingly compiled over the last few months. They were horrified and dumbstruck. Chrissy and Jake stood in a corner, overcome by shock. Xavier reflected on their reaction. I didn't blame the man. He was away for days and didn't have an inkling of what was going on. When the video stopped playing, it was actually my father-in-law who spoke first. He said, "What the hell did I just watch?" "Chrissy, Xavier, it's not what it looks like. I'm not like that. These are fabricated videos taken out of context." "Oh, really, Chrissy? They don't look fabricated to me." "You want to tell me that my daughter-in-law went to the extent of fabricating videos for what? To humiliate you?" Yes, that's right, Xavier. Ellie is doing this out of malice. I don't know how she managed to doctor those videos. I would never do something like this." Chrissy's nonchalant lies were getting to me. She wanted to tell everyone that her 1 year of abuse was all lies made by me. I didn't know how people would still believe her after I made a full video of her antics. I calmly said, "So now you want to blame me for ruining your image, Chrissy? Let's do one thing then. Let's call the cops and let them decide if the videos are fabricated." "What nonsense, Ellie. The cops won't be bothered to listen to a lying witch like you." "Are you sure about that, Chrissy? You were saying that you don't realize that the stuff you were doing is downright illegal. Let's call the cops and find out." Chrissy looked more panicked at what I said. She never imagined that I would put her in this position. I had not only exposed her to her family, but also threatened to call the cops. She had never in her dreams imagined this happening. Her family was also pretty pissed off by what they saw. By a stroke of luck, I found out that some of Chrissy's friends were also present at the party, friends who belonged to the charitable foundation where Chrissy worked. They were already giving her the stink eye while typing something on their phones. I assumed they were informing their work superiors about what they saw at the party, but Chrissy didn't notice. She was busy trying to convince Xavier that she was being framed. She told him, "Xavier, do you hear her? She's threatening to call the cops on me. Ellie is threatening to get me in trouble. I'm telling you, she's delusional. Jake will agree with me, right, Jake? Care to tell me what the hell you were doing when your own wife was being abused under my roof, Dad?" It's not as bad as it looks, Dad. Ellie is making a big deal out of nothing. Mom is a caring mother-in-law." "Seriously, Jake, you think this is how a caring mother-in-law behaves? Are you out of your mind? You were still defending your mom after I showed you proof that I wasn't lying." "Wait a minute, Ellie. You told Jake about the abuse and he didn't do anything." I was glad Xavier caught that part, as did everyone else. They hadn't expected my husband to know the whole deal and not protect his wife, his damn wife, whom he married out of love. No, his father's fortune and staying in a grand mansion mattered more to him than his own wife. He didn't want to upset his mom and risk his inheritance. But he didn't remember that his father didn't share his messed up ideas. Xavier was a man of morals and ethics, which also meant that he wasn't taking my abuse lightly. As I predicted, Xavier would be the one to help me get revenge against Chrissy. He was furious when I said I told Jake about the abuse. Xavier, he refused to believe me. He always told me that I was overreacting and accusing Chrissy of nothing. He told me that he wouldn't risk staying at this house by upsetting Chrissy. "Why didn't you come to me sooner, Ellie?" I needed to collect proof and show everyone what a monster Chrissy is. From Jake's reaction, it became clear to me that I needed proof to show that I was being abused. Otherwise, no one would believe me or help me. "We all believe you, Ellie. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry I failed to raise my son right. As for Chrissy, I don't even know what to say. You can call the cops on her. I won't interfere." "How could you say that to her? You will let her call the cops on your own wife. My life will be ruined, Xavier. Our reputation will be ruined." "Dad, you are not thinking straight. We don't need to call the cops. We're your family. Ellie is no one. You can't support this." "Shut your mouths, you two. After what you have done, you have no right to tell me how I should and shouldn't act. And don't call me family. Abusers and enablers can never be my family. As for my reputation, there won't be a spot on it. I will divorce Chrissy and disinherit Jake as soon as possible. I will have no ties with such monsters like you two." Chrissy and Jake were shocked to hear that. They didn't expect Xavier to decide that. Like always, they thought they could spin the story to make me look like the bad guy, but no one believed them. Now it was apparent from the cheer that the crowd made when Xavier made that declaration. Chrissy's friends had already left after giving me their support and promised that they would make Chrissy pay for her actions in their own way. They didn't even talk to Chrissy, and she was busy managing her very angry husband. Chrissy and Jake cried to Xavier. They said, "Xavier, you are not thinking straight. You can't just abandon us on Ellie's word. Her words are backed by proof, Chrissy. She didn't just tell me the truth. She showed it to me. Unlike my spineless son here, I actually do intend to do what's right by Ellie." "Dad, I'm sorry. I know I should have listened to Ellie. Believe me, Dad, I had no idea that Mom was really that is. Jake, I showed you proof once, but still you didn't do anything. You didn't want to jeopardize your inheritance. I don't even know what I ever saw in you. It's freaking funny that your father cares about me more than you. Xavier, if you hadn't supported me today, I don't know what I would have done." "I support you wholeheartedly, Ellie. My imbecile son doesn't deserve you, and he doesn't deserve the inheritance that he wants so badly. It's only fitting that I disinherit him." "Now, Dad, no, you can't do this to me. Dad, on your son." "Dad, don't call me Dad, Jake. I don't want to hear that from you. I'm done being an ATM to two useless people who are nothing but a waste of space on this earth. Jake, since you have turned as greedy and fake as your mother, you can go with her after our divorce. You won't have a home here anymore." "You're not serious about this, Xavier. You were saying this just to hurt me. You won't divorce me, I know that. We've been together for almost 3 decades. You won't do this to me." "Yes, we have been together for almost 3 decades, but I had no idea that my own wife could be such a vile and monstrous person. After what I witnessed today, I don't want to be anywhere near you, let alone stay married to you." Chrissy froze like she was thunderstruck. Jake was already crying and repeatedly apologizing to Xavier, but still I had no apology. It was funny just how today's event showed everyone where Chrissy and Jake's priorities lie. They only cared about money and reputation. They didn't care that they abused a person and let it continue for a year. I was disgusted with the useless man I called my husband. He was more upset at the news of being disinherited than hearing that his own wife was being abused. It was prophetic. Chrissy now restarted her crying and begging for forgiveness. Not to me, of course. She said to Xavier, "Xavier, look, I know I made a mistake, but I swear it will never happen again. Don't take such a huge step without thinking, Xavier. I'm your wife. Can't you forgive me for one?" "Mom is right, Dad. We know we messed up, but we will make it up to you. We are ashamed of ourselves. This will be a wake-up call for me, too. Please don't abandon us for one mistake. Please forgive me this time. You two have some nerve asking for forgiveness. You didn't even apologize to the main victim here, who is Ellie. You are apologizing to me because I have the power to make you bankrupt and homeless. Not once have you ever looked at Ellie with remorse or apologized to her for your horrible actions." So Xavier had noticed what I had noticed. He saw how they disregarded me and were more concerned with Xavier. He knew that they didn't want to end up on the streets after having a life like that. As soon as Xavier pointed out the irony, Chrissy and Jake started to pester me with their apologies. It was so fake and desperate that it made everyone even angrier. I was scrambling away from them as if their touch would pollute me. I wanted those monsters nowhere near me anymore. I said, "Don't bother with your fake apologies anymore. I know you were sorry only because you got caught and are now facing consequences. I am not that doormat who came into this family a year ago. I know your fake faces. Ellie, come on, don't do this to us. We made a mistake. I should have protected you." "I'm so sorry I didn't. We love each other. We can look past this. Let's try to forgive each other. We're family, Ellie." "Yes, we are family, Ellie dear. I'm so sorry I was such a bad mother-in-law. I will get help and get better, I promise. I will never do this to you again. If you just forgive us, we can go back to being the perfect family we were." I laughed. Guys, I laughed when Chrissy and Jake said their piece. It was hilarious that they called it the perfect family. I don't know which perfect family abuses their own daughter-in-law. I don't know which perfect husband lets his own mother torture his wife. Their fake apologies were just like jokes to me at this point. I did feel a little powerful having them at my feet, begging for forgiveness, knowing that my decision would affect and change their life for the worse. I gave them a small smile and said, "You must be delusional if you think I consider you family. You are nothing but leeches. You came to apologize because you have your future at stake. Well, guess what? I don't forgive you. You are not my family. Before you even pull a husband's card, Jake, let me be clear. I will be divorcing you. That's final." No, Ellie, listen to me. I did what I did to protect us. I wanted to protect our future. I love you. You let your mom torture me because you wanted to secure our future. I told you multiple times that we don't need your parents' money. I wanted to go get our own place to get away from your evil mother, but no, greed made you stay here and overlook everything your mom did. Well, it amounted to nothing for him. I will be disinheriting him, whether he likes it or not. Even if you take him back, Ellie, I won't be having him around anymore. He can go freak off to where his mom goes. I am firm in my decision too, Xavier. Jake, we are done. You are getting a divorce, and I will be going after half of your assets. You will pay for enabling your mother. Jake and Chrissy couldn't say anything more. They kept crying and saying sorry over and over again. You can imagine my satisfaction with this situation. I truly got my vengeance and protected myself. I called my friends, who gathered my things and drove me to their home. Jake tried to stop me, but with one stern word from Xavier, he shut up real quick. I didn't even look at Chrissy because I wanted to forget her nasty face as soon as possible. I didn't go to the cops with the video. With Xavier divorcing Chrissy and Jake getting disinherited, I didn't need to spend money on lawyers to get them punished. They were in deep anyway. Xavier kicked them both out of the house. They came begging to my friend's place to try and stay with me. Xavier had an ironclad prenup, which meant Chrissy wasn't getting a penny out of him. As I said, her friends from the charitable foundation exposed her face to everyone at work and got her fired. As for Jake, his job at his dad's company was gone, and so were his dreams of getting a big inheritance. Now their only refuge was me, who had both a job and money. Chrissy was so freaking shameless that she thought I would help her because, in her words, I was family. Well, I promptly kicked them out and threatened them with a restraining order if they ever contacted me again. As the months passed, I managed to settle into my own place. I was actually renting and waiting for my divorce to be finalized. Jake had a few assets that were obviously getting split between us. He didn't have a prenup in place because he thought I wouldn't be strong enough to leave him. Now I shudder to think that he could have easily turned abusive like his mom if I had stayed longer. Anyway, I did purchase a small flat after the divorce got finalized. Jake gave in easily because I threatened to go to the cops with the abuse videos. Xavier also did the same and got a smooth divorce. Jake ended up working 2 jobs to support his mom, who refused to work. He once reached out to me to complain about how his mom was making him miserable, and he wanted to come back to me. I laughed in his face and told him to enjoy his new life before hanging up. It was a long revenge for me that kept going on even after I stopped doing anything. Currently, I'm living a good life, and so is Xavier. But Jake and Chrissy are suffering and getting a good dose of karma for their actions.
Everyone's presentations are done," Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me and began to speak. "There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only." "Absolutely right." His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. "I'm leaving." After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their inn. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.